Okay, it says I'm live. We're gonna hope that things are working, and give me a second to turn on some lights so you can see me a little bit better. All right, so today we're gonna do what's called following the thread. There you go. Sweet. You can see me a little better. All right, and we double check on my mic. I have not done this before on here, so I'm going to edit, see if I can change my mic. And thanks for being patient. Where's the mic settings? Audience, yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3. I don't see where the mic is. Hey, Alana, can you hear me okay? If you're live? Can you hear me okay if I'm talking like this? Yeah? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know if it's actually picking up. Sweet, it is. Okay, we're just gonna roll with it. Okay, well, welcome. So today I just finished doing some coaching today, and today I wanted to elaborate just for the public on a process called following the thread. Now, this has been a skill that I have used for years to help people understand each other. And this is a communication tool. I learned it back 5, 6 years ago, and at first I struggled a lot. So if you've ever had a situation where you're trying to communicate with another human being, and that human being you feel like is attacking you, or you don't feel like you can actually ask good questions, and you feel wishy-washy and you feel uncertain in a conversation, then this is going to be a phenomenal tool. Now, as a disclaimer, I'm just going to say this tool takes practice. It is by far one of the simplest, but also one of the most complicated and hardest things to master. And when I first learned about this, it was to teach me better sales. And I learned how to ask and to listen and to repeat and to relate. And I had heard somebody on a sales training just do this process. And my mind was blown. I was like, wow, these guys are so good. How do they know what questions to ask? And they were just going to town, and I was thinking to myself, I was in Branson listening to this CD or listening to this call, and I just thought, one day it'll be so cool that I too can ask good questions like these masters who are already like making multiple 6 figures and everything. And I thought, one day that's going to be me. And so today I'm here to teach you, hopefully, something that is very simple but yet very profound. If you use this process well, it will improve your relationships with your loved ones. It'll help increase your sales. It'll help you in any area of your life because every area, in my opinion, comes down to communication. Cool? So you guys ready? Let's dive in. And says there's a bit of an echo. Matt, I don't think it's actually picking up on here, but I don't know how to change it. So hopefully the echo is not too bad. Maybe we'll, hey, testing, 1, 2, 3, didn't do anything. So it's not picking up on this at all. That's okay. It's probably picking up over here because the closer I get, or maybe it's over here, the closer I get. I don't really know. But hey, we're just going to roll with it. And hopefully everybody can hear me okay. And next time I'll figure out how to do it on YouTube Live. All right, let's dive in. If there's an echo, maybe it will resonate throughout the rest of your life as you hear this amazing technique. Here we go. Follow the thread. Now, I believe I've done a training on this before, but you can never get enough trainings on this. So what is following the thread or follow the thread? Imagine that we have a tapestry. Okay, so you have this beautiful tapestry, and there's a picture on the front of the tapestry. And as you see that picture, it has all sorts of beautiful colors. Maybe it's a tapestry of a sunset, and there's trees and a stream, and you see it's just beautiful, right? Can you imagine that with me? Imagine this beautiful big tapestry. Now, if you turn that tapestry around, on the back, what do you see? You see tons of little threads, like half tied off threads of all sorts of shapes and colors that make up the beautiful front of this tapestry. In our lives, our body is kind of like that tapestry. What we see on the outside tends to be made up of tons of little threads on the inside. And those threads are words. Our words define who we are. And what we've gone through in life up to this point are our interpretation of those words. So if I've gone through something in my life and it feels not very positive, it feels negative, and I've gone through life and it hurts, and maybe it's around love, maybe it's around money, maybe it's around relationships, maybe it's around health, but I've had an experience that is tainted. Now, as I think about that, it has a thread or a definition tied to it. So as I move forward with life, and I say, hey, I want more money, the word money might have multiple definitions or meanings or interpretations based on my past reactions. You following so far? This is important because as you map out the things that you want to communicate, it's important to realize that we are made up of a summation of everything that we've experienced from our past. So is everybody else. So when I'm asking people questions and following their thread, the goal is when they say something, I want to know what they mean by what they say. For example, growing up, there was a time when my parents got a divorce. And I remember after the divorce happened, I felt really not good. I felt uncertain. I felt confused. I felt like most of it was my fault. Like I could have done something to save my parents. And I remember my mom coming up to me, and it was very vivid because I remember this moment where I knew I had a choice to tell the truth or not. And I chose to not tell the truth. And she said, Tyler, how are you doing with all this that's going on? And I said, I'm fine. What I meant by the word fine was a lie. What I meant was, I'm really confused right now. It's shaking my whole meaning of life. I don't know to believe in God anymore or families, or I'm so confused. That's what I felt. But what I could communicate was only the word fine. So when I said the word fine, it had so much meaning behind it. What she saw was on the tapestry, the beautiful picture. But underneath that were a lot of dark threads that were unheard, unseen, and misunderstood. So today, as I teach you this technique, it is a powerful process to understand people, help them understand who you are, who they are, and why they do what they do and what they mean by what they say. This will help you connect to your kids, help you make more money. It'll help you in your sales. It'll help you understand your health. It'll help in so many areas of your life. Cool? All right, so let's dive in. How do you actually follow the thread? Number one, you first must ask a question. So like my mom's example, how are you doing? So it's a simple question to ask. The second step is to listen. Now, what does listen actually mean? Why not hear, right? Listen and hear is different. So listen is to not just hear the words, but actually comprehend what is meant by the words. So if someone says, I am fine, so let's say I say, I am fine. Each one of these words is a thread, and each one of these has a lot of meaning behind it. So, number one, I am fine. Fine had a heavy weight on it at the time. I didn't know what I felt. So instead of describing all the emotions that I wasn't taught at the time to communicate, I labeled everything misunderstood as fine. And many of us have seen that. Many of us have experienced this. So what I want to do is I want to ask, and then I want to listen. And the next step is I want to repeat. Now I can choose which words to repeat. I like to choose the words that tend to have a little bit more weight to it or emphasis. So as you think about people speaking, many times people use words and to communicate, right? We use words. Words are like 7% of communication. Tone makes up 30 to 35%. And then your body language makes up all the rest. So as I'm speaking, most of what I say is actually spoken through my tone or my body language. So at the time when I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine, what I was trying to communicate that was not picked up had so much weight or avoidance to it. So what can happen is you could say, okay, how are you? I'm fine. Oh, you're fine? So I could repeat back to them what they're saying in a question form. What that does, number one, it validates that I heard them, that I actually heard them correctly by the words that they used. Do not change the words that they use. So a lot of times people will go and they'll try to rephrase it a different way. Oh, so everything's okay? No, I didn't say everything's okay. I said everything's fine. So you want to use the words that they use, not the words that you interpret or think that they use. That's very important to do this well, okay? So ask, listen, repeat. Now, as I repeat back, oh, you're fine? So tell me more about that. So I can say, when you say fine, what do you mean by that? That's a good question. Maybe they don't feel safe enough to say. So in that moment, I probably might have just given an answer of a defensive answer. Well, I mean, I'm fine, like no big deal. Everything's fine, right? I get defensive. But if you're listening, so you go back to ask, listen, repeat, relate. So now they have to listen. What you hear when someone's defensive is, number one, that I am saying underneath the fine, I don't feel safe, I don't trust you with the truth, and I'm unsure how you're actually going to handle it, if you'll really understand. That's what I'm saying with that tone, with that formality, with that body language that I'm saying it with. So then a good way to be like, to listen is to validate that, to say, or to then go to the next step, which would be relate. If you see a defensive wall pop up or someone is not actually sharing the truth, that's when you need to relate. And relating gives them permission. It drops those walls. So in this case, I would have done something like saying, I totally get it. Or I couldn't even understand what you're going through right now. You can relate two ways. One is to actually get it, to understand, but then not just say I get it and move on, but I'll share with you how to do that. Or to share that you could not understand it at all. Because some parts of them probably feel like you can't understand. You can't really get it. And they're right. Like, how could we if we don't really ask, listen, repeat, relate, and fully understand what they mean by what they say? So in this case, let's say I go one way and I'm like, okay, yeah, I totally get it. Back just even going through this divorce, like let's say I was my mom, I thought I was fine too. And I want to use the same word that they use to relate to that so that it gives them permission to share the truth behind it. I thought I was fine too. But what I didn't know is I had a lot of things that I didn't know how to communicate. And with me and your dad, and I felt very frustrated, and it's been one heck of a ride. So what did I do? I just related. I was vulnerable in a way to give permission for them to share the truth. So then I would go right back after I related. Now this is where most people stop. A lot of us do tend to relate naturally. We're like, okay, cool, let's relate, because that's how the human That's how we as humans connect, is through story. We relate. But usually we stop there, and then it's awkward, and then we just kind of move on. So the key is, after you relate, keep connecting the thread and go back and ask a question concerning the thing that you're talking about. So in this example, I would say, okay, cool. So my story here, I get it. So for you, when you're saying that everything's fine, what's really going on? How do you really feel? By doing that, I just acknowledged that I get them, or that maybe I couldn't even comprehend them because it's probably so much stuff. And I connected and gave that connection, gives that ability for them to communicate openly. Now, as I ask, continuing that same line of logic, now they're going to open up again. So then they might say, like, and you'll see the barrier just drop. It's amazing. And they might say something like, yeah, well, gosh, honestly, I feel really frustrated and confused right now, and I don't even really want to talk about it. So then you, what? Listen, repeat. Okay, yeah, so you don't want to talk about it? And your tone matters. If you say, oh yeah, so you don't want to talk about it? Well, it's going to totally lose the thread, and they're going to get defensive, and then you're going to lose the conversation. So you got to really be aware of your tone and your body language. If someone's hurting, if someone's in a negative space, you really want to sympathize with them, and with your tone, with your body language. I always tend to go a little bit under their tone, a little bit under their, if they're sad, I want to feel sad. Because how can I get on their level? I need to be on their level and understand them where they're at. And the only way I can do it is if I get under them and look at them to see and understand how they're thinking and feeling. Then and only then will I be able to step up, raise up, and lift them up. And that happens through this process of asking, listening, repeating, relating. Doing this a couple times, ask, listen, repeat, relate, ask, listen, repeat, relate. And eventually, you'll get to a place where there are two things will happen. Number one, you'll lead them to a problem or a commitment. So you might go through this a couple times to really help them. And maybe in this example, you're going through and they're like, oh, well, okay, great, fine, everything, I feel miserable, I don't really know what to do, So maybe we get to a problem that they want to solve, and I could guide them on solving it, or help them come up with their own solutions. Or I could help them do a commitment that they might not be keeping. Most people have the answers inside of them of what they need to do. We just don't do it. So what do we need? We need someone to understand us and then provide us a way to recommit, reconnect. So following the thread helps us listen to people, understand what they mean by what they say. And as we keep our tone and we keep our body language and we keep our words congruent with what we want, we can really understand what's on the back of that tapestry and understand all those threads that we hide from everybody else. You see, most of us wear these masks to pretend to be someone we're not. Due to our fear of judgment, being seen, we're afraid someone might find out the truth about us, whatever it might be. We're afraid to get hurt, really is the ultimate thing. And so as we can really connect and show the vulnerability through relating by story and asking and listening and repeating back what they say so they get that's what we hear and what we understand and what we're listening to, they will tell the truth. The truth will come out. And the cool thing, there's a phrase that says, the truth will set you free. It's a very powerful phrase. When people say the truth, it is very liberating. The problem is most of us mask truth behind our tone and our body language, and we say things that people want to hear. But really, we're missing that deep truth to connect to the other human being. So if you want to improve your relationships, this is a brief introductory to following the thread. And I'm going to invite you to practice this. Go through and ask, listen, repeat, relate. Ask, listen, repeat, relate. And eventually you'll get to where they either have a problem that needs solved and you can help them make a commitment to solve that problem, or you'll just make a really great connection and they'll feel heard and understood. Okay? So those are the options that happens. And very powerful thing. This is the same process that I use to enroll paying clients that I've sold $65,000 programs to, is asking, listening, repeating, relating. One of my first sales, one of my first 10 sales, the person said, you know what separates you from all the other people that I've interviewed to coach me is for the first time, I feel like you're actually listening to what I'm saying. And I thought, hey, that's following the thread. So this works, super valuable if you use it. So if you have questions, want to learn more, you can drop a comment below. If you want to take this to the next level, there's a little bit of this kind of processing in the 10-day challenge that we run. And then also in my group coaching that we do, we practice this and role play and drill it. So if you're interested in that, number one, you can just drop a comment below, ask more questions on this, I'll elaborate, maybe do another video, go in depth or step 2 or part 2 or whatever you need extra help with. Or you can join the 10-day challenge to help you gain the clarity you need. And this is a clarity process to really understand people. Okay, so thanks for joining me today. And drop a comment, like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with somebody and practice. You got to practice, practice, practice. I'd love to hear your feedback going and practicing. I practiced this first with my mom, total failure. I remember calling her up and being like, hey, I'm just going to practice something. And I asked her, I was like, so how's your day? And she's like, it's going all right. How is yours? And I was like, oh, all right? Well, I didn't know where to go. I was like, ah! And it was hard at first. But you'll get better at listening and repeating and relating and asking a question tied to it. And it's a beautiful artwork. So take the time to practice. Go out, have some fun with your family and asking them good questions just to get to know them a little bit more. And as you get better and better, maybe try it with some clients. Go enroll some clients through this process. Or maybe just on yourself. You can literally take yourself through the same exact process to understand more about yourself and who you are. Cool? All right. So if you have any other questions, drop a comment. If you want to join the 10-day challenge, I'll drop a link down below as well. If you would like to do that, it's phenomenal. It helps you really gain clarity on what you need to say, how to say it, what you want, how to align it, and trusting yourself. Because a lot of this comes to trusting yourself. If you don't trust yourself, it's hard to ask the questions. So if you haven't gone through that, check it out down below, and we'll see you in the next video.